In the morgue filled with the corpses of the Uchiha tribe, he opened his eyes. A mysterious voice rang in my ears. He looked bewildered and said, "Saving the ninja world, what's the matter with me, the remaining sin of Uchiha?" Keywords of the novel. Yuzhibo's remaining sin is forced to save the ninja realm without a pop-up window. Yuzhibo's remaining sin is forced to save the ninja realm. Download the complete TXT collection, and Yuzhibo's remaining sin is forced to save the ninja realm. Latest chapters for reading. Chapter 1. Second Survivor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Second Survivor. How Lin Zhen suddenly opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air from his throat. Where is this? As soon as his thoughts moved, he was filled with a wave of fear. Because he found himself unable to move, except for difficult breathing, he couldn't even move his fingers, as if he were a corpse. Then, a voice without any emotional fluctuations came from the ear. Return task. Dawn. Complete the regression task to return. Lin was stunned. The content in his voice left him confused. Return to task. Dawn. What kind of ghosts are they all? Just then, a sound of footsteps approached. Come and save me. Lin Zhen wanted to call for help, but found that there was no sound coming from his throat. And his eyes were covered with a white cloth, or rather, lying flat, his whole body was covered with a white cloth. The kind that completely covers the head. Ha! There was a faint sound coming from the direction of the footsteps. Quickly, a figure appeared in front of Lin Zhen and uncovered the white cloth covering her body. Lin Zhen, who thought he had been rescued, breathed a sigh of relief and then looked at the figure who had uncovered the white cloth. His mind suddenly froze. Kakashi. A silver broom head and a black mask. Lin Zhen won't admit it wrong. It wasn't anyone else who uncovered the white cloth for him, it was a familiar anime character, Chimu Kakashi. At this moment, Kakashi, who glanced at Lin Zhen, shouted, "Medical team, there is still a survivor here." A burst of noisy footsteps immediately came from afar, followed by several personnel wearing medical uniforms surrounding Lin Zhen. How could it be? I checked and he clearly no longer has any vital signs. Perhaps it was a state of suspended animation before. This kind of situation is very rare. The medical staff whispered and helped Lin Zhen up, examining his body. As Lin Zhen sat up, his vision finally broadened a bit. What caught his eye was a huge morgue. There are hundreds of mourning beds neatly arranged in the room, without exception, with a corpse covered in a white cloth lying on each bed. Many medical personnel are busy with it. Some even have a glass jar with a pair of eyeballs soaked in it nearby because his body was still in a state of unconsciousness. Although Lin Zhen was extremely frightened in his heart, there was no expression on his face, and even his eyes were cloudy. Seeing Lin Zhen with a dull expression, Kakashi, dressed in a dark outfit, asked the medical ninja who was examining Lin Zhen's body, "How is he doing?" "Vital signs tend to stabilize, it's just that the mind seems to be." The medical ninja shook its head and let out a sigh. Kakashi looked at Lin Zhen with a complex expression and instructed the medical ninja beside him, "Take him to the hospital for treatment, and I will report to Lord Hokage." Hospitals. Lying on the hospital bed, Lin Zhen still had a dull expression on his face. However, he could feel that his body was gradually recovering, and the slightly trembling fingers were the best proof. Meanwhile, chaotic scenes flashed through his mind. Yuzhibo Zhensi, based on the chaotic images in his mind, resembling a lantern, and the scene in the morgue just now, he slowly understood his current situation. He seemed to have crossed into the body of an 8-year-old boy named Uchiha Shinji. Time is the night of the Uchiha genocide. He just didn't understand why he had just slept in and crossed into the world of Hokage, and even onto a corpse in the morgue. Undoubtedly, the true Uchiha Shinji has died, under the sword of Uchiha Itachi. What was the previous sound? The eerie sound in his ears when he woke up in the morgue also made him particularly concerned. In short, His mind is in a mess now. The chaos caused by the absorption of residual memories from Uchiha Shinji, the shock caused by unexpected travels, as well as the confusion about the future and the panic about the unknown, are all filled with emotions that make it impossible for him to calm down and sort everything out. Suddenly, he took a deep breath. Just now, he absorbed the last memory scene of Uchiha Shinji's life. That was the moment when Uchiha Itachi swung his sword. Perhaps due to fear, the image in Uchiha Shinji's memory has completely distorted. Everything else in the image is blurry and distorted, except for Uchiha Itachi's cold, crimson Sharina when he wields his sword, which are incredibly clear. It feels like you've really been stabbed. Lin Zhen's back was drenched in a cold sweat. He was inevitably subjected to a huge mental impact, as he only fused some memory fragments of Uchiha Shinji. Before he could recover, he found that his vision suddenly became blurred. The ink-colored eyes were instantly dyed red, followed by the appearance of one after another of the 3 hooked jade writing wheel eyes. Not even finished. Then 3 hooked jade flew around, and the ink dots melted in the crimson eyes, transforming into 3 regular interlaced ink circles in the shape of a pin. After completing all of this, the ink circle dissipated and the crimson faded. The eyes in his eyes returned to their normal ink color, and the moment before seemed to be just an illusory bubble. Kaleidoscope writing will I. Lin was truly surprised. Although the change in his eyes just now was brief, he knew it was not an illusory bubble. He did indeed activate the Kaleidoscope Sharingan in the rumors of the Uchiha clan. The Sharingan was initiated by the intense emotions before the death of Uchiha Shinji. But he died too quickly. After awakening to the state of Sangoyu, the Sharingan extinguished with his life. Later, Lin Zhen crossed over and a new soul stimulated the Sharingan. The two of them relay and completed the final opening of the kaleidoscope. I didn't expect this guy to be a genius. After realizing these things, Lin Zhen was deeply moved. He knows that intense emotions such as unwillingness, hatred, and love can stimulate the Uchiha clan to open their Sharingan. But Yuzhibo Zhensi was able to complete the awakening of Sangoyu in a brief moment before his death, even touching the part of the kaleidoscope, which surprised him. You should know that the last person who was able to achieve this level was Uchiha Daitu, who initiated the 4th Ninja World War. Under the deliberate stimulation of Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Sasuke, who had fallen into the moon reading and witnessed the death of his parents, only opened the Sharingan of Sangoyu. So, Uchiha Shinji, who has not left any trace in the original time and space, is actually one of the few members of the Uchiha clan with the potential to unlock the Kaleidoscope Sharingan. Will I become Yuzhibo Zhensi in the future? Lin Zhen felt a bit disappointed. He took over the body and memory of Uchiha Shinji, and may only be able to survive as Uchiha Shinji in the future. The plane is invaded, countdown. 9. Suddenly, the mysterious voice rang out in his ear again. New book upload, please support us. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Countdown. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Countdown, Invasion. Lin Zhen, or Yuzhibo Zhensi, now has a bewildered expression on his face. He is now wrapped in bandages and lying in bed with a dejected expression, unable to even get out of bed. Suddenly, a voice tells him that his plane has been invaded. Also gave a countdown after waiting for a long time without any further explanation. Zhensi exclaimed in his heart, "Hey, you should explain what the invasion is all about." There is still no response. It seems like everything just now was just a hallucination. He is very speechless, yet helpless. Currently, he even struggles to move a bullet. In the following days, Zhensi spent all his time in a daze. This is mainly because he was injured too severely. The knife wound left by Uchiha Itachi on his chest was deeply visible in the bones, severely damaging his lungs. Even with medical ninjutsu treatment, it would take time for him to slowly recover. And that mysterious voice would suddenly ring in his ear every day, indicating a decrease in the countdown. This made him realize that the mysterious voice was not a hallucination, but a real existence. Undoubtedly. Having obtained this result, he became even more depressed. As the fermentation lasted for a few days, the impact of the extermination of the Uchiha clan, the first wealthy family of Kiba, gradually became apparent. The most direct feeling of Zhensi is that everyone sees him with a sympathetic expression. In fact, the vast majority of people in my village have no deep hatred towards the Uchiha clan. Most people just dislike the arrogance of the Uchiha clan, and fear the intimidating Sharingan of the Uchiha clan. After the extermination of Uchiha, these daily conflicts also dissipated. Instead, it was sorrow and sympathy. After all, Uchiha fought several ninja wars for Kiba and made significant sacrifices. While receiving treatment, Zhensi worked hard to adapt to all of this. At first, he was very frightened, worried about the exposure of his identity as a traveler, and worried that someone would eradicate him, the remaining sin of Uchiha. However, a few days have passed and the situation has remained calm for the time being. At least in the hospital, everyone showed sympathy and kindness towards him. Pop. Zhensi fell heavily to the ground. The nurse quickly stepped forward to help him up, looking concerned and saying, "You're too anxious. It's better to rest for a few more days before trying again." Holding back the pain, Shinji said, "The doctor said my injury has almost recovered and I can try moving my body now." The nurse also wanted to advise, "But I can do it." Zhensi refused the nurse's assistance. He took a deep breath and took another step forward. Despite every step being extremely difficult, he gritted his teeth and persevered. Whether it was the eerie countdown or the surviving remnants of Uchiha on the night of extermination, he did not qualify for leisure. Pop. Falling again, get up again, time and time again. Even the nurse next to him couldn't help but turn his head to the side. After an afternoon of exercise, Zhensi can finally barely walk. The nurse didn't expect him to really persevere and couldn't help but sigh, "It's unbelievable." Zhensi said, "I want to go to the restroom." The nurse smiled and said, "I'll help you go." "No need." Zhensi declined. He walked alone to the bathroom, confirmed that there was no one inside, walked to a single room in the corner, closed the door, sat on the toilet, and then lowered his head to support his forehead, covering his eyes. Kaleidoscope writing will I, open. As his thoughts moved, the pupils in his eyes changed instantly. Scarlet strikes, ink circles appear. In an instant. His gaze became incredibly clear, and the fine lines on his left hand, which covered his eyes, were visible. Is this the kaleidoscope writing will I? He was both surprised and delighted at this moment. A few days ago, in order to avoid the exposure of the kaleidoscope Sharingan, he lay in the hospital bed with limited mobility and kept suppressing the impulse to open the kaleidoscope Sharingan. Now that he has finally found an opportunity to confirm, he is very determined. On his way back to the hospital room, he saw another survivor of his clan, Uchiha Sasuke. However, that guy has been sleeping all along due to being in the middle of the lunar semester, and it seems difficult to wake up in the short term. In the following days, Zhensi has been working hard to recover his body. At first, I could only barely walk. With his unremitting efforts, he gradually became able to run and jump. And the mysterious voice that would ring in his ears every day added an inexplicable urgency to his already busy hospitalization life. Although he is still unclear what the so-called invasion refers to. But make some preparations as much as possible, there will always be no mistake. 1 week after admission. The doctor checked Zhensi's body while exclaiming, "Your body is recovering much faster than we expected." Zhensi replied, "Thank you." The doctor shook his head and said, "Our medical ninjutsu can only treat wounds. The recovery of your physical condition is the result of your hard work and exercise in the past few days." Zhensi clenched his fist and felt the power. His efforts during this period seem to have been in vain, and with the treatment of medical ninjutsu, his body has basically recovered now. After giving a few words of advice, the doctor left the ward. As soon as the doctor left, another figure walked in and smiled, asking Zhensi, "How are you feeling today?" "It's much better now," Zhensi nodded with a wooden expression. The person asking him was a young man with light blue hair and a smile on his face. Youth is Mizuki, the teacher of Shinji's ninja school. However, Zhensi knows that he has another identity, that is, the big snake pill is inserted in the eyeliner of my. Shuemu looked up and down at Zhensi and then said, "Your injury is almost healed. You can be discharged today." Zhensi nodded. After completing the discharge procedures, Shuemu led Zhensi to an apartment building. Opening an apartment on the 3rd floor, Shuemu handed the key to Zhensi and said, "This will be your new home from now on." Zhensi looked around and silently took the key. Shuemu handed another passbook to Zhensi, gave a few instructions on daily life, and then left with a smile. Carefully closing the door, Zhensi's expression slightly enriched. The passbook given to him by Shuemu is a pension issued by the village, totaling over 7 million yuan, not a small amount. After collecting the passbook, Zhensi looked out the window. Although this apartment is not large in size, it is located in the center of the village, only a few streets away from the ninja school, and the surroundings are very bustling. It is obvious. The vast territory of Yuzhibo is not something that the two unconscious children, Zhensi and Sasuke, can hold on to. So he was not surprised to be placed here by the village. As for this compensation of up to 7 million yuan, it is feared that it also includes compensation for the confiscation of ethnic land by the village. Just thinking of the scene I saw in the morgue, the accumulation of the Uchiha clan for nearly 1,000 years, and the Sharingan of those who died of the Uchiha clan, I'm afraid they have all fallen into the hands of the village now. With this calculation, the 7 million yuan pension is not worth mentioning. At night, rows of lanterns and neon lights were lit up on the streets of the village. The warm light seemed to dispel the coldness of the night. In the apartment, Zhensi quietly looked out the window at the night view of my village, but his mind was focused on the next door. The occasional noise coming from the next door made him somewhat suspicious, worried that someone might be monitoring his every move. But soon he dispelled his doubts. If someone were really monitoring him next door, he wouldn't have made these noises for him to hear. I don't know who lives next door either. After whispering in secret, he lay upside down on the bed, thinking about the future. Until now, he has not figured out why he traveled through time. The mysterious voice's mention of return mission and invasion is even more confusing. He tried many ways to call out that mysterious voice, trying to communicate, but found nothing, as if it only existed in his imagination. He restrained his thoughts and said, "Anyway, I have to work hard to survive first." At present, he already has a pair of Kaleidoscope riding wheel eyes, which could be considered an ace at least before the 4th Ninja World War. With the downfall of Uchiha, there are actually not many enemies who still hold malicious intentions towards him. Except for Tuanzang, who led the extermination event, Orochimaru, who coveted the Sharingan, Itachi, who personally killed him once, and other villages and organizations interested in Uchiha's blood boundary, there was nothing else. Okay, there are quite a few threats. So staying in Kiba village now is actually much safer than running around. This principle is easy to understand. He is now a survivor of the Uchiha extermination incident. As long as 3 generations of Hokage still have face, and Kiba speaks of the will of fire, no one will persecute him openly. However, he was also aware that he did not have the protection of a weasel like Sasuke. If he does anything that goes too far, even if it is inconvenient for the 3rd generation to take action, Tuanzang will definitely not miss the opportunity to trample on the remaining sin of Uchiha. Just like these past few days, he can occasionally feel his hidden gaze monitoring him. Hold on for now. He secretly made up his mind. The plane is invaded, countdown. 2, suddenly, the mysterious voice rang in my ear again. His face darkened. The countdown number has changed from 9 a week ago to 2 now. which undoubtedly means that a number is a day. Countdown 2 means there are only 2 days left. New book upload, urgently needed support, please take care of beginners, recommended tickets, monthly ticket support. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. People who should not appear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. People who should not appear. After getting up to wash up, Shinji arrived at the ninja school early in the morning. As soon as the person entered the classroom, they were stunned. The room was filled with dozens of people, and he didn't know many of them. However, among these few familiar faces, there were 2 characters who shouldn't have appeared here. Suppressing his doubts, he sat down in his seat based on the memory of the original owner. At this moment, sympathy and concern gazed around. Obviously, the classmates all knew about the tragedy that occurred in the Uchiha clan. As the most powerful family of Kiba, Uchiha was unexpectedly wiped out overnight by the young clan leader, and only 2 children survived throughout the entire clan. What a sensation this has brought to the village, you can imagine. Zhensi, who had gradually become accustomed to this kind of gaze, remained silent. He glanced without leaving a trace at the red-haired little girl sitting on the podium in the first row, as well as the black-haired boy in front of him. What a ghost! He felt a sense of confusion in his heart. If he didn't admit it wrong, the thin red-haired little girl in the first row should be Xiang Phosphorus, who has the bloodline of the Whirlpool clan, while the black-haired boy in his front row is very similar to the white one born in the Mist Hidden. How could the 2 of them be at Kiba's ninja school? Zhensi searched through the memory fragments left by the original owner, but did not find any information related to them. It seems that the original owner never cared about the 2 classmates, Xiang Phosphorus and Bai. It can only be said that it is truly Uchiha. Then, he turned his head to look at the boy sitting at the other end of the classroom with a pair of white pupils. Hinata Ningsi. This is the only person in the original owner's memory who cares and is also considered a competitor by the original owner. In a blink of an eye, the morning class ended. As a proud Uchiha, the original owner had an average relationship with his classmates in the class, and with Zhensi's cold expression, no one took the initiative to talk to him all morning. Zhensi is also happy to be idle. He doesn't really want to interact with people at the moment, mainly because he's afraid of revealing things. If you don't mind, let's eat together. Suddenly, a voice pulled Zhensi's wandering thoughts back. Zhensi looked up and saw the seemingly white boy sitting in front of him, handing a food box to him. Seeing Shinji's face full of confusion, the young man said, "Forget to bring your bento." Zhensi finally realized that he needed to bring his own bento for lunch, but he didn't reveal it and tentatively asked, "What's your name?" The young man did not accidentally or get angry because Shinji didn't remember him. He naturally introduced himself, "My name is Bai." It's indeed him. Zhensi's heart trembled. The water at ninja school is a bit deep. At present, the courses at ninja school are very simple. These are basic knowledge that ninjas need to possess, such as survival skills in the wild, methods for tracking enemy footprints, and identifying various herbal remedies. A slightly deeper course only explains the principle of extracting chakras from the human body. As for the actual use of chakra to perform ninjutsu and hallucinations, there is currently no involvement. In terms of physical surgery, the main focus is on physical exercises between students, as well as practice of throwing ninja equipment. Just like at this moment, the students who had finished lunch came to the playground one after another, some chasing and frolicking, while others sparred and practiced with each other. Naruto, Lumaru, Dingxi, Ya. Zhensi saw more familiar faces on the playground. However, Naruto is 1 grade younger than him, and the range of activities between them is also different, with no intersection between them. Turning his gaze to his own grade, he found Ning Ci with a deep expression on his face, not choosing to practice with others, but practicing the gentle fist of the Hinata clan alone in the corner against the wooden stake. After watching for a while, his face gradually became solemn. Ning Ci is about his age now, only 8 years old, but his physical skills look very sharp. According to the original owner's memory, in terms of physical skills, the original owner was not a match for Ning Ci, and he suffered a disastrous defeat in several battles. Not to mention him as a traveler. Because he discovered that the children in the ninja realm were completely different from the world he lived in. The 7 or 8-year-old children here were agile in their movements, with smooth and natural transitions between attack and defense, and their movements were powerful and heavy, just like martial arts masters. Is this TM 8 years old? He thought he now had a pair of kaleidoscope riding will eyes, enough to overlook the group of little brats at ninja school from above. Upon observation, without using his Sharingan, he found himself unable to even deal with the unnamed miscellaneous fish of the same period. Not to mention touching someone like Ning Ci who has already made a name for himself as a genius. No, if the foundation is too poor, even with a kaleidoscope will eye, it will be difficult to fully unleash the power of the kaleidoscope. The power of the blood inheritance limit varies among different people. Moreover, the kaleidoscope riding will eye is still a consumable item and cannot be extravagantly squandered without restraint. Meanwhile, this also made him realize a problem. That is not to mention the kaleidoscope Sharingan, his strength is not small compared to the original owner's strength. The original owner, the orthodox Yuzhibo, is second only to Ning Ci in grade, and he estimates his current strength to be mostly at the bottom of the grade. If this gap cannot be filled as soon as possible, it may arouse suspicion from some malicious individuals. I'm so annoyed, I'm not good at fighting. He is a bit distressed, knowing where the problem lies doesn't mean he can solve it immediately. At this moment, Bai walked over to him and asked with some anticipation, Zhensi, can I practice physical exercises with you? Zhensi, who was afraid of being timid, secretly complained in her heart, but shook her head on the surface and said, you are too weak. Bai Lian quickly apologized, I'm sorry, I was presumptuous. Jian Bai sincerely apologized to himself, but Zhensi felt a bit embarrassed. Although he knew that Bai's appearance at Kiba's ninja school was not right, and there must be some conspiracy involved, he had to admit that Bai was a very understanding person and got along very easily. In the evening. Ninja school is over now. Shinji was digesting what he had seen and heard at ninja school today as he walked towards his apartment. As he walked to the end of the street, he found that Bai was walking the same way as him. After chatting a few words, he was somewhat surprised and said, is that you who lives next door to me? Bai nodded and said, Zhensi, please take good care of me. Oh. Zhensi nodded. Upon returning home, Zhensi collapsed on the bed, letting his thoughts wander. Bai and Xiang Phosphorus appeared at Konoha's ninja school and became his classmates, which really made him a bit uncertain. Is it the butterfly effect or parallel spacetime? Shaking his head, he withdrew his thoughts one by one, and his subordinates consciously touched his chest. The previously visible bone cut had completely disappeared under the treatment of medical ninjutsu, but he still occasionally remembered the scene before his death in the original owner's memory fragments. This kind of experience of death is really uncomfortable. The plane is invaded, countdown. 1. Please be prepared, we will face the invasion after midnight tonight. Zhensi suddenly stood up and looked at the wall clock. The time displayed on the clock at this moment is 8:05 p.m., less than 4 hours away from 12.00. New book period, seeking monthly pass, recommended ticket support. Please everyone. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Heaven. Arriving at the window and looking at the Muyi village under the darkness, Zhensi reviewed the layout of Muyi village again in his mind. Regarding invasion, he has analyzed many possibilities in recent days and also considered some countermeasures. For example, he has already memorized the layout of my village in his mind. He can even distinguish where important institutions such as the Hokage building, the Shadow building, and the hospital are with his eyes closed. Once an invasion really occurs, he can respond promptly. After all, this is Konoha, and no matter what intruder it is, Konoha will not sit idly by, so he who is in Konoha can fully use this to deal with the invasion. Secondly, taking advantage of his 2 days of living alone, he gradually adapted to the state of opening the Kaleidoscope Sharingan and carefully explored the techniques of using the Kaleidoscope Sharingan without excessively exhausting his pupils. With these kaleidoscopes by his side, he still has some confidence. Finally, for the sake of insurance, he also spent money to buy many ninja tools. 20 swords in his hand, for precision steel-forged kowu, and 30 explosive talismans were all neatly packed in his ninja pouch at the moment. No matter whether it comes in handy or not, it's always right to be prepared. Time passes by little. With a light ring, the hour clock on the clock finally pointed to 12 o'clock. Zhensi held a painless handle in his hand and looked around cautiously, searching for possible invasions, but nothing happened. A few minutes later, he frowned slightly and said, "Isn't it a prank?" Before he could finish speaking, he disappeared into the room with a whoosh boom boom boom. When Shinji regained his senses, he found himself in a strange palace, with occasional explosions echoing in his ears. He crouched down and came to the window to look out. In the courtyard of the palace, hundreds of guards with bows and swords were besieging a giant monster covered in dark blue, with a bulky body and arms all over its upper body. "Block it. Protect your highness. Don't let it get close to the main hall." Amidst the constant cries, the guards kept attacking the monsters. Arrows shot out like raindrops, some of which even had ignited detonators tied behind them. However, these attacks failed to stop the monster at all. The monster was riddled with arrows, but paid no attention. Its limbs, which were shattered by the detonating talisman, quickly recovered at a visible speed to the naked eye. Obviously, ordinary attacks have no effect on it. And the countless arms on the monster's upper body, each time extended, could accurately grab a guard and drag him to the front. Then, swallow it in one gulp. Isn't this a hand ghost? Shinji, who was hiding in the side hall of the courtyard, immediately recognized that this monster was the hand ghost that had eaten more than 10 senior brothers and sisters of Tanjiro in the trial field. However, the hand ghost in front of him was significantly larger than the one he remembered, not only bulky but also emitting an unbearable stench. The courtyard quickly filled with a pungent smell of blood, with limbs and arms everywhere, like hell on earth. No. Although his heart was pounding with fear, Shinji, who was hiding in the dark, still sensed something. He found that as the hand ghost continued to devour the guards, its size became larger and larger, and its attack frequency, strength, and even recovery ability all showed a significant improvement. Undoubtedly, devouring the guards can make it stronger, and this strengthening is very significant. Ghosts in ghost extermination can indeed become stronger through cannibalism, but this kind of strength requires accumulation over time. Like the hand ghost in front of us, which obviously expands with cannibalism, Zhensi suspects that it may be related to the presence of chakras on the guards being eaten. If a ghost with terrifying recovery ability had chakra again. Just thinking about it, Zhensi felt a chill and her scalp tingled. In the courtyard. It seems that I have felt a rapid increase in my own strength, and the frequency of hand ghosts eating people has also increased significantly. It gulped down the guard and let out a disgusting moan. What a delicious meal. The people here are so delicious, oh ah. Is this what the intruder is? Watching the guards in the field rapidly decrease, Zhensi forced himself to calm down. If not targeted at weaknesses, ordinary attacks have very limited effects on ghosts. Just like those fierce guards who are not afraid of death, no matter how many times they shoot, chop, or explode the hand ghost, they cannot eliminate the hand ghost, and as long as the hand ghost swallows them, it can quickly recover and consume. Fortunately, Shinji knows the weaknesses of ghosts in the process of eliminating them. The biggest weakness among them is undoubtedly the sun. As long as it is exposed to the sunlight, under normal circumstances, even the most powerful ghost will fly to ashes. Besides sunshine, another weakness of ghosts is their neck. Slaying the neck of a ghost with the sun will blade is the most common method for ghost killing teams to eliminate ghosts. In addition, ghosts are also afraid of a plant called wisteria. However, Shinji currently does not have either the sun will blade or the wisteria blossom. Looking at the time again, it's only past midnight, it's still early before sunrise. What to do? Zhensi felt a headache and his gaze turned back to the courtyard. From the attire of the guards in the courtyard and the detonating symbols used, it appears that this place is still in the realm of ninja, so he guessed that it is likely a palace of some daimyo. This can also be seen from the fact that the guards are brave enough to fight hand ghosts without fear of death. From the perspective of the combat situation, the hand ghost is very strong. It's not that the hand ghost cannot resist, in fact, the guards have already cut off and exploded the hand ghost's arm more than 10 times, even shattering half of its body in one instance. But these deadly injuries to normal creatures have little effect on opponent ghosts. The hand ghost, however, can rapidly enhance its strength by constantly devouring the guards. In just a short amount of time, its body expands once again, looking like a moving meat mountain from a distance. Why are the people here so fragrant? Ah! Golem is so sweet. Hand ghosts slaughter while making chilling chewing sounds. Damn it, what kind of monster is this? Why haven't reinforcements come yet? Don't eat me. Amidst roars and howls, the resistance of the guards gradually weakened. Watching the hand ghost devour the last guard, Zhensi's expression was solemn. Even if it's just moving, the hand ghost can make a rumbling sound, causing the ground to tremble slightly. And the buildings blocking in front of it all the way are like tofu that shatters with just a touch. At this moment, it seemed to have set its sights on the nearby main hall. Dragging his bulky body, he moved step by step towards the main hall. It seems like it hasn't found me yet, said Zhensi in the side hall, feeling a little relieved. Just as Shinji relaxed a little, an arm suddenly shot out from the back of the hand ghost, accompanied by a foul-smelling stench, roaring towards him, instantly breaking through the wall and grabbing Shinji who was hiding behind. This. Without a chance to react, Zhensi was caught by the hand ghost. Then, grabbing Jinshi's arm and quickly retracting it, he lifted Jinshi out of the air and brought him to the hands of the ghost. Oh ho ho, I've smelled it a long time ago. You're even more fragrant than them, so much so that I can't help but drool. The hand ghost stared at Zhensi with a silly expression on his face, and saliva really flowed out of his mouth. Zhensi feels nauseous and nauseous. Suddenly, the hand ghost seemed to feel something, and a hint of madness appeared on its already deformed face. So you are the light of this world, don't drive me away. Light. Watching the reaction of the hand ghost, Zhensi realized that his identity seemed very special. Countless arms danced and swayed around, like a demon. The hand ghost became even more insane. It grabbed Zhensi and raised it above its bloody mouth, saying, "As long as I eat you, I can stay here forever. This is my heaven." Heaven. Shinji spat lightly and said coldly, "Do you have any misunderstandings about the ninja realm? This is hell." Before the words could be finished, Zhensi's eyes turned crimson. New book period, seeking protection. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. I'm not doing it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. I'm not doing it. Bang, accompanied by a roar, a yellow phantom projected out of Zhensi's body, instantly breaking free from the hand ghost's grip on his arm, and then transforming into a huge half-body skeleton phantom constructed from bones. Amidst the pervasive smoke and dust, Shinji stood under a huge phantom like a deity. His crimson eyes reflected a kaleidoscope pattern made up of 3 interwoven ink circles, exuding a murderous aura all over him. The hand ghost was shocked and said, "What the hell are you?" Without waiting for the hand ghost to finish speaking, Zhensi urged Susanenghu to punch the hand ghost hard from top to bottom. Pushi, the seemingly sturdy body of the hand ghost, was vulnerable to the terrifying force of Susanoo, and with a burst of explosions, it instantly shattered to the ground, with flesh and blood flying everywhere. For a moment, the already bloody courtyard became even more chaotic. However, with just a few breaths, the flesh and blood that had been smashed into the pit began to wriggle and then rapidly expand, quickly restoring the original appearance of the hand ghost. It's truly light. The hand ghost covered his mouth with his hand and chuckled, "Oh ho ho, you can't kill me, you can't kill me." Cut. Without further ado, Zhensi urged Susanoo to strike a hard punch. Without any accidents, the hand ghost was once again smashed by Zhensi. But this time, Shinji did not wait for the hand ghost to fully recover. Instead, just as the hand ghost's flesh was wriggling, he swung another punch and hit it. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous heavy smashing of Susanoo made the pit on the ground bigger and bigger, and the cracks extended several tens of meters. The surrounding buildings were successively affected and collapsed, even a corner of the main hall that was further away collapsed. After a moment, Zhensi stopped his attack. Compared to the beginning, the speed of the flesh and blood recovery was much faster, but in the end, the hand ghost still recovered, but its size shrank by a large circle compared to when it had just devoured hundreds of guards. Coco is evil. The feeling of weakness replaced the previous madness on the hand ghost's face with deep fear. It never imagined that it would face such a monster. Just staring at the Kaleidoscope Sharingan of Shinji, it couldn't help but shiver. It wanted to escape and continue to eat people to replenish its strength, but the Susanoo in front of it blocked all its delusions. The hand ghost trembled and instinctively took a step back. "No, you don't even have a knife. How could I die in your hands?" Zhensi slowly walked towards the hand ghost and said, "It seems that you don't understand what this place is yet. Soon you will miss the sunshine and the sun will knife. He knows my weakness, I'm going to die." The hand ghost's pupils suddenly shrank, his whole body and mind occupied by fear, and his will instantly disintegrated. Upon perceiving this moment, Zhensi did not hesitate and quickly launched an attack, once again urging Susanoo to punch and hit the hand ghost. Bang! The body of the hand ghost was once again shattered. But this time, the flesh and blood on the ground did not wriggle or gather again, but dissipated into the air like flying ash. Intrusion successfully blocked. Crack. Closure. Listening to the sound in his ear, Zhensi breathed a sigh of relief and fell to the ground, his huge Susanoo shrouded in him instantly dissipating. Why should I, the remaining sin of Uchiha, be responsible for guarding the ninja realm? He now has some understanding. The so-called invasion should be the invasion of extraterrestrial creatures like hand ghosts into the ninja realm. And the blight in his hand ghost's mouth is mostly responsible for eliminating these invading extraterrestrial creatures and protecting the safety of the ninja realm. Understanding leads to understanding, but he is very resistant in his heart. He was inexplicably thrown here and engaged in a fierce battle with the monster. If it weren't for the Kaleidoscope Sharingan, he would have been in the hands of the ghost by now. "Hey, I'll do it this time. Don't have another one. I won't do it anymore." Although I didn't know if I could hear that mysterious voice, Zhensi still shouted loudly. Scanned loot in the analysis of spoils of war, spoils-based breathing method. Water breath. Suddenly, a blurry light appeared where the hand ghost had turned into flying ash. "Hey, there are still spoils of war." Zhensi walked up to Guangtuan. Breathing technique is a technique used in ghost extermination to strengthen cardiovascular function and significantly increase the speed and strength of ordinary people, allowing vulnerable humans to fight against ghosts. Because it is purely achieved through breathing, there is no bloodline threshold for learning breathing techniques. As long as there is talent and enough effort, one can more or less improve from breathing techniques. As for the degree of improvement, it varies from person to person. However, this technique, which does not involve complex changes in the properties of chakras, is undoubtedly a good thing for the current Shinji, so he reached out to grab the light cluster. In an instant, memories of learning, water breath, were absorbed into his mind one by one. At the same time, he also understood why the spoils of defeating the hand ghost were the breath of water. Obviously, this is because the hand ghost devoured more than 10 swordsmen who had learned breath of water, and the memory fragments of these swordsmen have already integrated into its flesh and blood. Reward settlement in progress, rating. E. Received Ninja Realm gift. Chakra, small amount. Many light spots suddenly emerged around and merged into the body of the true master one by one. Ah! This feeling was like throwing him, exhausted all over, into a hot spring, so comfortable that he couldn't help but cry out. The gift from the ninja realm was taken aback for a moment, and he thought to himself, there's actually a reward. The amount of chakra that had just flooded into his body was almost equivalent to his own chakra, which means in a short moment, his chakra doubled. However, recalling the content from the mysterious voice just now, he savored it and said, hey, there's no need to emphasize a small amount. Rewarded a small amount of chakra, let him double the amount of chakra directly. Isn't this to say that his own chakra is almost equal to a small amount? And he also noticed that the rating given to him was E, which is obviously not a good rating. Looking around, he pondered, is it because the invading hand ghost caused too much damage to the ninja realm, affecting the rating? Or is it because the invading time was too long, affecting the rating? Click suddenly, a commotion came from not far away. Are there any survivors? Zhensi suddenly turned back and looked in the direction where the sound came from. I saw a small head peeking out from the ruins of the main hall, blinking its big eyes and looking at him in the courtyard. Damn it! Realizing that his kaleidoscope writing wheel was exposed, Zhensi's heart tightened. If this secret were to be leaked, neither the Tuanzang in the village nor the Orochimaru outside the village would let him go. Even some villages and organizations that are temporarily unrelated to him will hunt him down for coveting the Kaleidoscope Sharingan. This is really not good. So to confirm, he walked quickly over. As he approached, he realized that the small figure covered in dust in the ruins had some impression on him. After carefully identifying it, he muttered to himself, are these purple eyes from the purple garden? Ziyuan asked curiously, big brother with red eyes, do you know me? So this is the palace of the witches in the ghost kingdom. Zhensi murmured, but his heart struggled. Thank you all for voting and tipping. I saw many familiar faces, thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Zhensi's Kaleidoscope Pupil Surgery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Zhensi's Kaleidoscope Pupil Surgery. From Ziyuan's surprised gaze, Zhensi knew that the other party must have witnessed his fierce battle with the hand ghost. In other words, his Susoninhu has been exposed, and it is difficult to conceal the secret of the Kaleidoscope Sharingan. Ziyuan was completely unaware of Zhensi's inner turmoil. She looked up and down at Zhensi, her eyes full of admiration. Do we need to silence? Zhensi couldn't make up her mind at all. Wow, it seemed to have sensed a hint of killing intent emanating from Zhensi, and the small bell hanging on Ziyuan's chest suddenly burst into a dazzling light. Is this? Feeling threatened, Zhensi took a step back. Others may not know, but he knows the details of the witch in the ghost kingdom. The small bell on Ziyuan's chest is a very powerful magical tool. It seems to be protecting the purple garden, but in reality, its true function is to seal the power of the witch in the purple garden and prevent the young purple garden from recklessly using the witch's power to harm those around them. To put it simply, that thing is just a restraint disguised as a protective tool. To kill the purple garden, one must first destroy the bell, and once the bell is destroyed, one must face the unsealed witch of the ghost kingdom. Zhensi dispelled the idea of silencing. It is true that Ziyuan is a rookie witch now, but he is also a rookie ninja. He is not sure if he has the ability to block the sealing technique of the purple garden, as the witch of the ghost kingdom has the ability to seal tail beast level monsters. However, just letting it go is obviously not enough. So he thought of illusion and fixed his eyes on Ziyuan. He activated the Kaleidoscope Sharingan and, through his pupils, implanted a psychological suggestion into Ziyuan's heart. You haven't seen me. In an instant. Ziyuan's expression froze as she unconsciously followed Zhensi and slowly recited, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Did you succeed? Zhensi observed for a moment and then breathed a sigh of relief in secret. Fortunately, the purple garden has now been sealed with the power of a witch, and the time spent with itself is extremely short. Otherwise, with his half-hearted Kaleidoscope Sharingan illusion, it would be difficult to implant this psychological suggestion. Even so, he doesn't feel very secure. If he meets Ziyuan again in the future, there is still a considerable chance that Ziyuan will recall this memory. Fortunately, as a witch in the Ghost Kingdom, Ziyuan is unlikely to leave, so the probability of them meeting in the short term is very low. At this moment, a firelight appeared in the distant night, as if a large group of people were holding torches and rushing towards the palace in a hurry. Obviously, these are the Ghost Kingdom guards who came from other places for reinforcements. And just as Shinji was struggling to return to Kiba village, with a whoosh, his figure disappeared into place out of thin air. Looking at the familiar room, Zhensi realized that he had returned. At this moment, the wall clock indicated that he had been away for about 30 minutes. This happened to be the time when he witnessed the hand ghost slaughtering the guards and killing the hand ghost. That is to say, he was instantly teleported to the area invaded by the hand ghost, which is the palace of the witch in the Ghost Kingdom, and then teleported back in an instant. It is somewhat similar to the Flying Thunder God technique. Ah! A sudden piercing pain came from both eyes. Despite the excruciating pain, Shinji quickly closed the Kaleidoscope Sharingan, and his crimson eyes quietly returned to ink. After a while of relief, the sharp pain in the eyes gradually subsided. He spat out a mouthful of turbid air and his face looked a bit ugly. Successfully blocking the invasion and receiving gifts from the ninja realm, his chakra volume in his body has indeed doubled, but chakra is chakra, and the pupil strength of the Kaleidoscope Sharingan is the same. Simple understanding. Chakra is a combination of physical and mental strength, and can be restored through rest. It is renewable. The pupil power of the Kaleidoscope Writing Will I is an extremely high quality Yin Dun chakra. Its total amount is already fixed when awakening the Kaleidoscope Will I, using as much as possible. Before possessing the ability to transform ordinary chakras into high-quality Yin Dun chakras, the pupil power consumption of the Kaleidoscope Sharingan cannot be replenished. This time opening the Susanenghu, it consumes too much. If I try again like this, my Kaleidoscope Writing Will I will be useless. Previously, at a critical moment of life and death, he did not consider too much when launching the Susanenghu. And the sharp pain in his eyes just now made him personally experience the undeniable fact that Kaleidoscope Writing Will Eyes are consumables. With his hand on his forehead, Zhensi sat on the bed. The one invading the ninja realm this time is a ghost from the Ghost Destruction, so the probability of being a ghost again next time is very high. Can deal with ghosts. He's not professional. Just now, he used the dumbest method to eliminate the hand ghost. After smashing the hand ghost for the first time with Susanenghu, he confirmed through detailed insight from the Kaleidoscope Sharingan that the restored hand ghost's body size was slightly smaller than before. So he confirmed that although the ghost could constantly recover, it still needed to consume some kind of flesh and blood power. As long as the ghost is subjected to multiple destructive blows in a short period of time and is not replenished with flesh and blood, the ghost will also lose its ability to recover due to excessive consumption. But this method is suitable for hand ghosts with bulky bodies, not necessarily for other ghosts. If we encounter a ghost with high agility and strong tactical ability next time, it will be difficult for Zhensi to repeat this victory. We must find a true way to restrain ghosts. The simplest way to cut the neck with the Sun Will knife is undoubtedly, but Zhensi is not sure if there is a special ore in the ninja realm that can forge the sun will knife. He had never seen anything like wisteria in the leaves of wood. As for the sunshine, ghosts obviously won't invade the ninja realm during the day. If ghosts are afraid of sunlight, will the sunlight, known as the flame of the sun, be effective for ghosts? Zhensi suddenly thought of the pupil technique of Tianzhao in the Kaleidoscope writing will I. Tianzhao black inflammation has the characteristic of burning everything and not extinguishing it. So even if it can't have a special restraining effect on ghosts like the sun will blade, it can still be attached to ghosts to make them fly and disappear in endless combustion. Unfortunately Zhensi's Kaleidoscope writing will I does not have the pupil technique of Tianzhao. Whenever he thought of his Kaleidoscope Sharingan pupil technique, he scratched his head incessantly. He has the same pupil technique on his left and right eyes, named Susa Zun Lantern. As the name suggests, this is a pupil technique based on Susanenhu. To activate the Susa Zun lamp, one must first activate Susanenhu. Unlike common ninjutsu types such as daylighting and moon reading, hallucination type pupil surgery, Susa Zun Dengzhan is a relatively rare functional type pupil surgery when both the Susanenhu and Susa Zun lamp are turned on at the same time. A second pair of eye sockets will appear on the face of the imaginary shadow of the Susanenhu statue, a pair of empty eye sockets that can accommodate another pair of eyes. Not bad. The ability of Susa Zun Lantern enables his Susanenhu to control his second pair of eyes. From a certain perspective, the birth of this pupil technique may be a comprehensive spiritual portrayal of the original owner and his interlocutor by the Sharingan. In Shinji's opinion, this pupil technique is actually very powerful. Just suffering from the lack of a second pair of eyes at hand to handle, so his Kaleidoscope writing will eyes are just a whiteboard, and the only available pupil technique is Susanabu. Compared to the Kaleidoscope pupil techniques that can be performed with a single eye, such as daylighting and monthly reading, Susanohu places a much greater burden on the body and consumes much more pupil force. If he fights every game with Susanohu, he won't be able to hold on for a few games. Zhensi sorted out her thoughts and came up with a solution. There are actually ways. The simplest and most direct way is to find a pair of beloved Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes, and evolve one's own Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes into eternal Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes. Even if it's not enough, we still need to get a second pair of Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes that can be controlled by the Susa Zun Lantern and more usable pupil techniques. Following this train of thought, he calculated the current pairs of Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes in the ninja realm. Not mine, there should be 4 Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes in the ninja realm now. A kaleidoscope with soil, one on the soil itself and the other on Kakashi. A kaleidoscope that stops water, one taken away by Tuanzang and the other collected by Itachi. Itachi's kaleidoscope is on himself. These 3 pairs of kaleidoscopes are all held by the strong, so with the current strength of Zhensi, don't even think about it. The only one who can move his mind is the pair of Kaleidoscope writing wheel eyes of the late Uchiha clan leader Uchiha Fuyue. The reason why it is said that he can move his mind is mainly because Fuyue never exposed the secret of having a Kaleidoscope Sharingan until his death. So although the village confiscated Fuyue's Sharingan, it should not be known yet that it was a pair of kaleidoscopes. In this way, the guard level of those eyes will not be too high. After all, in the morgue that night, Shinji witnessed the medical team remove the Sharingan from a corpse of a Uchiha tribe member and put it into a nutrition jar. Having gained so many Sharingan at once will inevitably weaken the preciousness of Sharingan. Therefore, among these 4 pairs of kaleidoscopes in the ninja realm, the Fuyue pair has the lowest difficulty in obtaining and is also the most likely pair that Shinji will win. But first, we need to figure out where the village has sealed the writing will eye. Although it was urgent, Zhensi knew that this matter was not urgent and had to consider it in the long run. Because of one mistake, it was very likely that he did not get the kaleidoscope and also got involved. In addition, improving his physical and ninjutsu skills as soon as possible is also his top priority. Thinking about it, he gradually felt drowsy. After the passion for the war subsided, exhaustion struck Pink and Tender new book, begging for support. Looking for monthly tickets, recommended tickets. End of this chapter. I didn't expect to succeed in chapter 7 either. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I didn't expect to succeed in chapter 7 either. Thump. Early in the morning, Zhensi was awakened by a knock on the door. Yawning, he came to the door and opened it, saying, "Why?" Bai Xiao, standing at the door, said, "Miss Zhensi, you're going to be late." Ah! Turning his head to look at the clock on the wall of the room, he found that it was almost 8 o'clock. So he had to wash up briefly and hurriedly left the door. Arriving at the ninja school, he realized that he had forgotten to prepare lunch again. Bai Jian took out a food box from his bag and handed it to Zhensi, saying, "Don't worry, I've prepared it for you, but I'm not sure if it suits your taste." Zhensi took the food box and opened it to take a look. There are delicious sushi and meatballs in the food box, as well as fresh fish slices and vegetables. Obviously, Bai has prepared them very carefully. "Thank you." Bai waved his hand and said, "We are classmates, don't be polite." Zhensi nodded and accepted Bai's kindness. Although he was aware of Bai's innate kindness, he still vaguely felt that Bai was too kind to him and seemed to be intentionally approaching him. The morning theory class came to an end quickly. After eating the bento, Zhensi, like the other students, came to the playground. Because it is free time, the playground is very lively at this time, with students from all grades present. For example, Naruto, who was 1 grade shorter, was sitting on a swing in the corner of the playground, feeling unhappy because he couldn't fit in with others. In another corner, Ningxile appeared motionless in front of the wooden stake, sweating profusely as he practiced his soft fist. There is also Shaoli, who foolishly runs around the playground. "I'll find a place to practice too." Having made up his mind, Zhensi arrived at a remote small forest in the school. After sorting out the fragments of memory left by the original owner, he decided to start with the fireball technique that the original owner had practiced countless times. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. He first refined the chakra, then meticulously completed the seal, and finally aimed at a large tree not far away. Bang! In an instant, a huge fireball erupted from his mouth, surging and hitting the distant tree, igniting it along with the surrounding grass. Looking at the raging fire in front of him, Zhensi stayed in place. In his memory, the original owner has practiced this technique countless times, but has not successfully performed it once. So this time he didn't have much hope, he just gave it a try and practiced seal making. Unexpectedly, not only did it succeed in one attempt, but it was also so powerful. In just a short while, the fire had already spread to the surrounding trees, burning a large area. Shwa. Quickly, figures rushed to the small forest. These are all the ninja school teachers who hurriedly arrived after discovering the flames and smoke in the forest. Watching the raging fire, the teachers changed their faces one by one. Earth done, earth formation wall. Water escape, water wave art. 2 of the teachers exchanged a glance and then skillfully activated ninjutsu, one using earth escape to block the fire and the other attempting to extinguish it with water escape. After much turmoil, the big fire was finally extinguished. Amidst the moisture and smoke, the teachers were all disheveled. Irika approached Zhensi and asked, "Zhensi, did you do it?" At this moment it was obvious that he couldn't make it through, so Zhensi had to nod. Irika said sternly, "It's too dangerous. How could you perform such advanced fire escape ninjutsu in the forest?" "I didn't expect to succeed either." Zhensi secretly complained in his heart. If he had known there would have been such a big commotion, he wouldn't have even tried it in ninja school. And isn't it the agreed C.level ninjutsu with medium ninja difficulty? How could you succeed once? Where is the difficulty? Shuemu walked over with a smile on his face and said, "Irika, don't blame him anymore, after all, it hasn't caused too much damage." The other teachers had a somewhat complicated expression. At the age of only 8, they were able to unleash such powerful fire escape ninjutsu, which made them marvel at the terrifying talent of the Uchiha clan. At this moment, the students on the playground were also attracted by the movement here and gathered around. Hey, what happened? Is it a fire? The big trees are all burnt. Seeing the small forest ravaged by the fire, the students were discussing it one after another. After learning that it was Shinji who caused all of this, many people cast surprised glances. Lumaru sighed softly, you truly belong to the Uchiha clan. Sakura and Ino looked at stars and said, wow, this senior student is so cool. Shaoli looked dull and said, you're so amazing. Ning-Si's face remained calm, with eyes full of fear. At the age of 7 or 8, most students at ninjutsu schools have not yet started to learn ninjutsu, and there are very few who can master it. So when he saw that Shinji could easily use the C-level fire escape ninjutsu that required a medium ninja level to master, he felt an inexplicable threat. What's going on? What are you guys looking at? Behind the crowd, Naruto muttered and pushed inside, but was repeatedly pushed out by the crowd. All this commotion made Zhensi sigh helplessly. Returning to the classroom, Bai turned to Jinshi and said, Jinshi classmate, I didn't expect you to have mastered such a powerful fire escape ninjutsu. Shinji shook his head and said, it's just a C-level ninjutsu. This is not all about maintaining the character of the Uchiha clan. He deliberately said it, but this time he really didn't have much pride in his heart. You should know that Itachi, without opening his eyes, just looked at his father's seal once and immediately learned the art of the fireball. Sasuke is a bit inferior. But it only took 1 day to learn. He has not only awakened the Kaleidoscope Sharingan, but also just received a gift from the ninja realm last night. His chakra has doubled, surpassing most of his peers. Mastering a C-level fire escape ninjutsu in this situation, upon careful consideration, is indeed reasonable. After all, ninjutsu is an application of chakras. There are enough chakras and they are strong enough. Not to mention the rigid two-handed seal, even the one-handed seal, or even the no seal, can still be used to unleash ninjutsu. Thinking of this, Zhensi glanced at Bai. In his impression, Bai was the kind of genius who had mastered single-handed printing at a young age, even Kakashi was taken aback. Soon, Zhensi realized that he still underestimated the impact of this matter. By the time school was over at night, the news had already spread completely. Many students at ninja school looked at him with admiration instead of sympathy, especially some female students, whose eyes were full of stars. Not only the students, but even some teachers from ninja school showed a much more serious attitude when they met him. There are precedents for this, some have Uchiha Shizuki in the distance, and some have Uchiha Itachi in the near future. They all made a name for themselves at ninja school at a young age, quickly promoted after graduation, and within a few years, their status far exceeded that of the teachers who had guided them at ninja school. Zhensi helplessly said, I have a headache. The new book has fewer characters, so please take some time to vote for support. Let me feel your warmth. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Solicitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Solicitation. At the sound of the bell, the morning theory class ended. The classmates left the classroom playfully one by one. Zhensi refused Bai's invitation and, holding a bento box alone, crawled into a deserted grove in the ninja school. After learning from yesterday's lesson, he decided not to easily use ninjutsu in the ninja school, but to first practice the breathing technique water breath. Because the cultivation of breathing techniques is very covert. Unless there is constant surveillance by the white eye, it cannot be detected at all. So he was eating a bento while searching through the memory fragments of the swordsman who practiced water breath in his mind. Just then, a person suddenly walked into the forest. Who? Zhensi looked over. The person stood in the shadow of the trees and said, "Good vigilance." Seeing the person's appearance clearly, Zhensi's face remained unchanged, but he was secretly surprised in his heart. Because the other party was not someone else, it was Jitsuan Tuanzang who pushed Yuzhibo to exterminate the clan with one hand. Tuanzang stared at Zhensi without concealing the aggressiveness in his gaze and said, "Your talent is good, but talent alone cannot bring revenge. Who the hell are you?" Zhensi appropriately revealed hostility. Tuanzang took a step forward and revealed his sinister face in the sunlight. "I am the village's advisor elder, becoming my subordinate is your only chance to seek revenge." "Ha, he wants to use his revenge against the weasel to lure me into joining the root." Zhensi felt absurd in his heart. This Tuanzang really doesn't even have the face. Even though he pushed Yuzhibo to exterminate the clan, he still has the face to come and coax the victims into sacrificing their lives for him. First, use Itachi to destroy the Uchiha clan, and then use the remaining sin of Uchiha to deal with Itachi. You think it's quite beautiful. Suppressing his disgust towards Tuanzang, Shinji said, "I don't need anyone else's help. I will personally kill that person. Those who refuse me will not have a good ending." Tuanzang snorted disdainfully and then turned around to leave. Watching Tuanzang leave expressionlessly, Zhensi thought to himself, "It's disgusting to be targeted by this guy. But he shouldn't dare to do anything to me in public now." Zhensi understands that the relationship between Tuanzang and Sandai is very subtle. From a certain perspective, Tuanzang is a part of the three generations of power structure and an important support for the three generations to control my village. So let's not just talk about Zhensi, even Yuzhibo, who has the strength of Jishui and Itachi, and even Orochimaru, who has both strength and status, Chimu Shuamao and others, cannot compete with Tuanzang in the village. Retrieving his gaze, Zhensi continued to eat the bento. On the surface, Tuanzang may not be able to do anything to him, but on the surface, he cannot say it well, so it is still necessary to improve his strength as soon as possible. After finishing the bento, he calmed his mind for a moment and began to practice breathing of water. Breathing is a way of developing the body's potential. Water breathing is one of the 5 basic breathing methods. Although it is not as powerful as sun breathing and moon breathing, it also significantly improves the body. In Ghost Destruction, as ordinary swordsmen, they basically rely on these basic breathing techniques to fight against ghosts that can be infinitely restored. And due to the memory fragments of more than 10 swordsmen practicing water breath, Zhensi has a natural affinity for water breath. After briefly trying several breathing rhythms against the memory fragments, he gradually began to feel the sensation. Feeling the rhythm of the air flowing out of his mouth, he vaguely noticed that his heart and lungs seemed to be echoing a certain rhythm. But this is different from daily breathing. In just a moment, he felt his lungs start to feel stuffy, his heartbeat and breathing became rapid, and the rhythmic rhythm was instantly disrupted. Stopping his breathing method, Zhensi felt secretly happy in his heart. According to the memories of those swordsmen, it usually takes a month of hard work to barely sense the rhythm and movement of breathing techniques. Even the best of them, Jitu, took a few days to feel the rhythm. And he just tried once and entered the rhythm. Of course. This is mainly because he has gained the cultivation experience of more than 10 swordsmen, just like the introductory level of water breath, which he has simulated more than 10 times in his heart. However, mastering the rhythm is only the first step. The key to breathing techniques is still the deep development of bodily functions. The techniques can only reduce the difficulty of beginners and cannot save the process of cultivation. If the heart and lungs cannot keep up with the rhythm of breathing, just like before, they will feel chest tightness and unsustainable for a moment. It seems that in order to master the beginner's complete collection, it is necessary to accumulate and practice over time, so that the various organs of the body can keep up with the rhythm of breathing techniques. Zhensi has a goal. Time flies, 2 weeks have passed in a blink of an eye. During this period, the eerie invasion did not occur again, which gave Shinji a slight sigh of relief. However, he dared not take it lightly and continued to work hard to improve his strength. After rejecting the invitation from Tuanzang last time, he weighed his options and ultimately accepted Bai's companionship. Because of physical skills, it's really not possible without a good companion for practice. Bai is both his classmate and his neighbor, so his practice with Bai will not arouse anyone's suspicion. Of course, the premise is that we can't create the flashy incident of almost burning down the ninja school last time again. With the help of Bai, as a weak player in physical training, he made rapid progress. In just 2 weeks of hard training, he reached the average level of his peers. At least it won't be seen as a flaw by those with intentions. And understanding Bai not only did not delve too much into why his physical foundation was so poor, but also thoughtfully developed various plans for him to exercise his physical skills. The improvement of physical skills is the most important foundation. The stronger the foundation, the higher the upper limit, so Zhensi is very humble in this regard and works very hard to solidify its weak foundation. On the other side, after more than 20 days of coma, Sasuke in the hospital finally came to his senses. At first, he didn't want to believe the fact that Uchiha had been exterminated, so he stumbled into the empty Uchiha territory alone. Then, in the drizzle, he walked out in a daze. Why? He walked like a puppet, with a dull and aimless expression. His world collapsed on one night. In just one short night, he went from being the son of the chieftain of the largest family in Kiba to becoming the now helpless orphan. What made it even more difficult for him to accept was that the culprit behind all of this was his closest brother. He couldn't accept such a fact. So, before the night of the extermination, he had a lively and cheerful personality, and suddenly became the gloomy and solitary person he is now, with an unattainable expression on his face. Shinji is also secretly following Sasuke. However, when he found out that the village did not place Sasuke in the apartment building where he was located, but instead allowed Sasuke to live in an apartment not far from the dark building, his attention to Sasuke became even more covert. It is obvious. Sasuke is still under surveillance in the village. This is actually understandable. Before Uchiha Itachi defected, he had warned Sandai and Tanzo in person that if Sasuke had any accidents in the village, he would spread the top-secret information of Kiba to other ninja villages. No one in the village dares to take the Itachi, who alone destroyed the Uchiha clan, lightly, even 3 generations. So whether it's to appease Uchiha Itachi or to contain Uchiha Itachi, the village must strengthen monitoring and protection of Sasuke. It is precisely because of this that Zhensi did not approach Sasuke. On the contrary, he deliberately pretended to dislike Sasuke and kept a distance from him to avoid attracting anyone's attention. Continue to roll and seek support. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Zhongren Exam. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Zhongren Exam. Bang. In the muffled sound of fists and feet intersecting, the 2 figures retreated separately. This is a remote practice field, and the 2 people in the field are practicing physical skills against Zhensi and Bai. Seeing his offensive being resolved once again, Zhensi frowned slightly. After practicing these days, he can clearly feel that he is making progress, but no matter how much he improves, Bai always gives him the illusion that with more effort, he can win. As a result, he was repeatedly repelled. Try breathing. After making up his mind, Zhensi looked at Bai and said, "Be careful, I'm going to use my all this time." Bai nodded in agreement, his face full of solemnity. In the entire collection. After exhaling, Zhensi's figure flashed and he swung a straight punch straight towards Bai's face. A hint of surprise flashed in his white eyes, as if he had not expected Zhensi's speed to suddenly become so fast. Bang 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 bang. In an instant, the 2 punched each other 4 or 5 times. With each punch from Zhensi, there was a mist exhaling from his mouth, and each move was repeated, as if stepping on a certain rhythm. His speed and strength were greatly improved compared to before. This made Bai very uncomfortable and rarely showed signs of panic. Taking a light breath again, Zhensi's speed increased again, his body swayed around Bai's back, and then he took the opportunity to sweep out with his leg. But just as Bai was sweeping his legs, with a swoop, Bai quickly leaped up, not only avoiding Zhensi's legs, but also gently tapping his toes on the legs that Zhensi had swept out, using his strength to turn around and retaliate with Zhensi's legs. This. Zhensi was taken aback and didn't have time to dodge, so he reluctantly raised his arms to protect the vital area. Bang, accompanied by a muffled sound, Zhensi was once again pushed back, and the rhythm of breathing was disrupted. Feeling the slight numbness emanating from his arm, Zhensi pursed his lips and said, "Bai, the strength of your leg is not right. Are you letting me down?" Bai panted lightly and said, "Zhensi, it's already very difficult to block your attack. I don't have any spare energy to intentionally let you." Zhensi shook her arm to relieve the pain and said, "You're just asking me." Bai didn't continue to explain, but walked to the edge of the field and handed a bottle of water to Zhensi, saying, "Zhensi, let's take a break." Zhensi took the water and silently drank it. He knew that Bai keenly sensed the limit of his physical strength, not only secretly reducing the intensity of the confrontation, but also actively requesting rest and taking care of his face. After reviewing the previous confrontation, Zhensi confirmed that breathing technique has a significant impact on physical skills. Without the use of breathing techniques, his physical foundation does not pose any threat to Bai. Once using the breathing technique, even a half-hearted state after only 2 weeks of cultivation can clearly cause some trouble for Bai. The use of water breathing is still not proficient enough, and the rhythm is easily disrupted. Zhensi secretly reviews. Bai, who was standing by, took a sip of water and casually asked, "Zhensi, could you ask why you are still practicing so hard even though you are already very skilled?" Zhensi inwardly slandered, "I said it was to protect the ninja realm, do you believe it? Who knows what will invade the ninja realm next? He dare not slack off." Seeing Zhensi's silence, Bai tentatively said, "Is it because of that person? Why did he do such a thing?" Zhensi glanced at Bai and then withdrew his gaze, "I don't know either." What Bai refers to is naturally the slaughter of the entire clan of Uchiha Itachi. It's not surprising that he has such doubts. Because many people in the village have the same doubts, everyone doesn't understand why Uchiha Itachi, as the young chieftain, wanted to personally destroy his family. But Zhensi had an intuition that Bai was overly concerned about him and the Uchiha clan, even though this was well concealed by Bai. The next day. What, the Chinese ninja exam? Zhensi in the classroom was a bit surprised. On the podium, teacher Irika is still talking about the various arrangements of the ninja school during the upcoming Chinese ninja exam. Simply put, younger students like Zhensi are going on vacation. When it comes to the Nakano exam, Shinji instinctively remembers the Nakano exam in the original Naruto issue. But in reality, the Chinese ninja exam is held every 3 years. The scale also varies from large to small. Like the Naruto incident, the scale was very large, but under normal circumstances, the scale would be smaller. The venue may not necessarily be in Kiba village, and all villages that have an alliance or cooperative relationship with Kiba are generally eligible to host the Chinese ninja exam. Great, you can take a vacation now. I heard that many villages will send people to participate this time. Isn't there a good show to watch? The students were all beaming with joy, just like a village holding a festival. In fact, the Chinese ninja exam is not much different from a festival. In the final round, villagers in the village can still buy tickets to enter and watch. After leaving the ninja school, Shinji and Bai wandered around the street. Suddenly, a commotion came from afar. Zhensi followed the sound and saw a procession coming from the end of the street, with a magnificent carriage in the center of the procession. Bai also looked over and said, "It seems to be a symbol of the Ghost Kingdom. Do the witches of the Ghost Kingdom also need to attend this Chinese ninja exam?" Zhensi's face stiffened and he said, "The witch of the Ghost Kingdom." Bai said, "Well, what's inside the carriage is likely the witch from the Ghost Kingdom. What is she doing with Kiba? Has my illusion been lifted? The secretly frightened Shinji looked in the direction of the Ghost Kingdom's procession and thought, is this going to the Hokage building? Realizing that Zhensi's face was a bit ugly, Bai asked with concern, what's wrong? Is there anything uncomfortable? Zhensi shook his head and left the street. Even if he knew that the appearance of Zun in Mai was very abnormal at this moment, he could not take any action. This is the central area of Kiba, only a few streets away from the Hokage building, and any action he takes may lead to unpredictable consequences. The only thing he can do now is pray that the Purple Garden has not yet lifted the psychological suggestion he imposed. In a state of anxiety, Zhensi spent the day. On this day, he did not come to control his dark side, nor did any rumors spread about him or the Kaleidoscope Sharingan, as if the arrival of the Witch of the Ghost Kingdom had nothing to do with him. Later that day, teams from Shiyin Village, Charan Village, Yuin Village, Zhongren Village, and Wuyin Village arrived at Mai one after another. Upon hearing these news, Zhensi was filled with doubts. In my impression, the relationship between Mu Yi and Wu Yin was very strained, and Wu Yin seemed to have never sent anyone to take Mu Ye's ninja exam. There were also noticeably more people sent by other Ninamura than usual. It seems that participating in the Chinese ninja exam is fake. The purpose of these villages is to verify the rumors of the Uchiha clan being exterminated. After some thought, he understood the reasons why these ninja villages were so actively sending people to participate in this year's ninja exam. You should know that the Uchiha clan is a wealthy family that has been passed down for nearly 1,000 years. They were already at the top of the ninja world before the establishment of major ninja villages. So the news of Uchiha's extermination is a bombshell for the entire ninja world. At night, Zhensi didn't slack off and continued to hold by and practice physical skills against him. During his rest, he wiped his sweat with a towel and casually asked, why did the Ghost Kingdom send people to participate in the Chinese ninja exam? Do they also have ninja villages? Bai shook his head and said, I haven't heard of the Ghost Country Ninja Village. Why did the witch from the Ghost Kingdom come to the village? Bai smiled and said, I'm not quite sure, but I heard that the witch from the Ghost Kingdom spent a day wandering in the village and visited many shops. Oh. Zhensi responded with a thoughtful expression. Sha suddenly, a sound came from the bushes next to the practice field. Zhensi and Bai looked over. A figure emerged from the bushes. She is small in stature, dressed in a gorgeous dress, with a bulging mouth as if chewing something, and holding a string of tricolor balls in her hand. Purple Garden. Zhensi was taken aback and recognized the other person's identity. The figure that emerged from the grass in a panic was not someone else, but the witch of the Ghost Kingdom whom he had just talked to Bai about. Zun didn't seem to have expected anyone in such a remote place. She booed Zhensi and Bai, then prepared to sneak away with her dress in hand. Just as she took a few steps, she suddenly stopped and ran to Zhensi with her head tilted. She stared at Zhensi intently and said, You. Requesting votes. Seeking support. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Fireworks Festival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Fireworks Festival. Zhensi did not expect to meet Ziyuan again in this way, and her heart rose to her throat. Ziyuan tilted her head and said, Oh, I really want to see you. Why can't I remember? Zhensi shook his head and said, We haven't met before. Is that so? Ziyuan frowned and reminisced earnestly. On the surface, Zhensi didn't show it, but in the bottom of his heart, he was a bit panicked. At the end of the day, I'm a bit uncertain about the effects of my own illusions. Seeing Ziyuan staring straight at Zhensi, Bai beside him curiously looked at the two of them. Your Highness, where are you? At this moment, the cries of the guards came from not far away. Little devil, get out of the way. Seeing that the guards were about to catch up, Ziyuan didn't care about anything else and quickly pushed away Zhensi in front of her, running away in a flash. Zhensi shook the corners of his mouth and muttered inwardly, I used to be called Big Brother, but now I'm called Little Ghost, this guy. Not long. Several guards from the Ghost Kingdom, carrying large and small bags, chased after them with sweat all over their heads. After asking Zhensi and Bai about the direction of Ziyuan's escape, they apologized while shouting and continuing to chase after him. Looking at the distant guards, Bai Shi smiled and said, "So that was the witch from the Ghost Kingdom just now. She was really naughty." Zhensi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. The little incident just now caught him off guard, but it also proved that the psychological suggestion he implanted into the purple garden with a kaleidoscope will is still in effect. So if Mu Yi comes from the purple garden, it's likely just a refuge. After all, in the original time and space, the witch was attacked, and the Ghost Kingdom also requested support from Kiba at the first time. This invasion by hand ghosts resulted in the slaughter of hundreds of guards from the Ghost Kingdom overnight. It is reasonable for the Ghost Kingdom to send young witches to Kiba for refuge. The plane is invaded, countdown. 3. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out in Zhensi's ear without any warning. He instinctively looked at Bai beside him and found that Bai couldn't hear the sound at all. Seeing Zhensi looking at him, Bai asked, "Do you want to continue practicing?" "No, let's go back." Zhensi shook his head. After returning to the apartment and closing the door, his face quickly darkened. The countdown to this invasion is only 3 days. A sense of unease spread in his heart. The next day. Because teams from other villages participating in the Chinese ninja exam gathered in Mai, the village became noisy. During the vacation, Zhensi did not slack off and continued to practice physical skills with Bai in the practice field. During the break, Bai smiled and said, "The mother-in-law at the meatball shop downstairs told me that the witch we saw yesterday had abandoned the guards early this morning and slipped out of the embassy base in the Ghost Kingdom alone, wandering around the village." "Oh." Zhensi pretended to respond casually. "But in my heart, I have made up my mind to avoid the purple garden and not encounter it again." Bai said again, "I heard there may be a fireworks festival at night." Fireworks festival. It seems to be to welcome other ninjas from the village who came to participate in the ninja exam this time. After a pause, Bai asked, "The classmates in the class are organizing a barbecue dinner and watching fireworks together in the evening. Zhensi, are you going?" Zhensi casually said, "I'll just forget it." Bai said, "Then I won't go either." At night. Boom. 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 Shinji leaned against the window, gazing at the dazzling fireworks blooming in the night sky, with no expression on his face. If you bring the perspective closer, you will find that his eyes are out of focus, obviously not really enjoying the fireworks, but being distracted by something. Next door. Bai also stared at the night sky, but his expression was particularly serious, as if he was not admiring the fireworks. Suddenly, his gaze focused on an inconspicuous fireworks in the air, and his expression suddenly became solemn. Then he sighed helplessly and went to the wardrobe to change his clothes. In the village. Sasuke was alone, sitting by a small lake not far from his apartment with his legs crossed. He didn't look up at the night sky, but instead stared at the brilliant fireworks reflected on the lake surface. My mood is completely opposite to the brilliant fireworks reflected on the lake at this moment. This lively scene is annoying to him. At this moment, the fireworks reflected on the lake's surface in his sight suddenly twisted, as if it had become the face he hated the most. "I'm going to kill you." He didn't even think about it, but pulled out his painless plop and jumped into the lake, breaking the calm of the lake's surface in the apartment. "It's still too risky to force yourself." Shaking his head, Zhensi drove the idea out of his mind. Even if you are so eager to get the kaleidoscope writing will eyes of Fuyue, you cannot take the risk of forcefully breaking through the dark buildings. This is irrational. However, how to deal with this invasion is indeed a big problem. We can't always use Susanoo, can we? And why is the countdown so short this time? Zhensi was secretly distressed. Suddenly, a soft sound of door closing came from the next door. If it weren't for the time when the fireworks exploded, he might not have noticed. So late, Bai still needs to go out. Zhensi was a bit puzzled, but he didn't take it too seriously. After all, it's normal for him to want to go out and take a stroll because it's so lively outside. But soon he frowned. After the faint sound of closing the door, there was no normal footsteps. Zhensi restrained his breath and slowly came to the door. He listened closely to the door for a while before barely hearing Bai's slight footsteps downstairs. Sneaky, what is he doing? After some consideration, Zhensi decided to follow up and take a look. But he clearly overestimated his tracking skills, and in a moment, he lost sight of Bai's figure, only to see him disappear into the bustling street from a distance. He must meet someone, being so careful may make the other person's identity very sensitive. Zhensi was strolling the street, thinking about the white matter. The appearance of Bai in my village and the faint curiosity towards him and the Uchiha clan have already made him feel suspicious. Plus what happened just now, he can almost be certain that Bai must have a problem. But he still couldn't determine who Bai was working for, whether it was a prominent figure in the village or a spy carefully planted by other villages into Mai. Passing by a small stall, Zhensi suddenly stopped in his tracks. He saw a dazzling array of masks hanging on the small stall and remembered the first time he was responding to an invasion, when he was unexpectedly seen by the Purple Garden. He then went forward to buy a fox mask similar to that worn in the dark. A fall into a ditch makes you wiser. Next time dealing with an invasion, he needs to disguise his identity. He tied the mask around his waist and continued to stroll. Unconsciously, he arrived at the remote training ground located in the small forest where he always practiced with Bai. Rumble in the night sky above, brilliant fireworks still occasionally explode. Oh, the village tonight is so noisy. Everyone has arrived, and Zhensi decided to take a break and practice water breath in this practice field for a while. Shwa shwa suddenly, two rumors of breaking the wind came from not far away. Zhensi was taken aback and hid sideways into the bushes. Immediately after, two figures, one escaping and one chasing, landed on the practice field. Despite wearing a mask, Sanji still recognized Bai, who had just sneaked away in the darkness as the one running ahead, and behind him was a dark ninja from the village. The dark ninja stared at Bai, who was wearing a mask, and said, "Humph. I was just monitoring the little ghost next door, but I didn't expect to catch you, this big fish. Let's take it easy, you can't escape." New book period, seeking recommended tickets, monthly ticket support. End of this chapter.